I'm tired of these mother-father zombie takeouts in this father-daughter hallway.
What's up? Welcome to episode 261 of Zombie Takeout,
Takeout.
the B-Moving Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, I know it was 2 weeks ago, but I thought of some things while I was editing our Prophecy review that I wanted to mention, and obviously it didn't come up last time because that was kind of a last-minute thing, which is why we didn't promote it at all.
Right.
Our episode with Roberta. I came up with another title that I really wish I'd thought of before we recorded.
Now let's see. The title we had come up with for that episode was it was
The Prophecy. Yes, the one I thought of while I was editing. Some kind of pedophile,
Oh,
like some kind of Wonderful the Eric Stoltz movie.
yeah.
I liked it. I also noticed something about your review.
Not something I'd want to have Google next to her.
Fair enough. Yeah, good point. I like the joke, but you're right. It could have had negative consequences.
Right.
Something I noticed about your review. You basically said it was the beginning and ending were strong, but I believe you actually said it was kind of dead in the middle.
Yes.
So alive at both ends, but a little dead in the middle. Reference to a Genesis song called Squonk, for those who don't know. Alright, so on to this week's movie, which is from 2013, Oldboy. This is the US remake directed by Spike Lee. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary. Sponsored by the family that stays together, because, well, they do other things too.
Well, they stay together.
Yeah.
Once they come together. But anyway, also brought to you by Mouse. It's What's for Dinner. Or the other white meat.
Yeah. Looked kind of pink in the movie, but...
Yeah, maybe he's a little underdone, that mouse. Well, okay. Just go back a couple years ago and listen to the impromptu plot summary for... what episode was that again?
I don't remember, but it was in 2013. There are a review of Oldboy. There are some slight variations, though.
There are. It was episode 167. I started listening to a little bit of it.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to, unfortunately.
So we have a man who's a bit of a jerk again. Not as bad as he was in the original.
I thought he was worse.
Station. He was just...
Originally, he was just kind of a drunk.
Right. But he was way more out of control in the original.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
He was in the police station and stuff. This one guy is just an idiot. And and not a very good father, of course, not very good at his job. And it seems like from out of nowhere, he gets kidnapped and sent into this this comfortable prison where he never sees his captors or anything. They just kind of slip things through his door. They feed him, give him, I don't know, they take DNA evidence and frame crimes on him, of course. And he eventually, after 20 years, and I'm not sure why they went from 15 to 20 years in this one like they did.
Because she was younger to begin with. I think she was 5 in the first one, when he was locked up.
Oh, okay, so wait a minute, no. It still doesn't make any sense.
Because she was 3, it would have been 15, she would have been 18, but would have worked, but it was still too I don't know why.
Yeah, it really doesn't make any sense. So right, 20 years later, after the same. Well, actually, they got a bit more psychedelic in the original one than this one. This one, he hallucinates a few things, but not nearly as much. He doesn't go nearly as batshit crazy as he does in the original, or at least Spike Lee has problems illustrating insanity.
Well, this kind of fell short of the original. Well, it didn't go as far as the original, I'll say, in a lot of ways.
and you had to know that coming into this because it's an American movie
Yeah.
versus another country's movie where they there aren't as many sacred cows,
Hmm.
you know. Which is kind of ironic if you think about
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
because there are countries with more sacred cows than
Hmm.
us. There's a country with an actual sacred cow,
Right.
but yeah, he's let go after 20 years. Um, he's led around. He discovers cell phones and whatnot and the
Hmm.
internet. Um, and he's led around, of course, by his captor, who's giving him clues. And at no point does he realize, wait a minute, maybe this guy's just manipulating me at any point in this,
Yeah.
which kind of seems ridiculous.
Hmm.
I don't remember feeling that way in the original, but I do
No.
remember, but I did feel that way here. Um, of course, so he's told to figure out who he is, who his captor was, and why he did it, and he'll let him go. He'll exonerate him from the charges the murder he framed him for, and give him like $20 million in jewels and a pony, and then shoot himself in the head.
Right.
And the of course the mystery is
Hmm.
ridiculously easy to solve
Yes.
in, I think, what a good span of 5 minutes of screen time is the mystery solved. Maybe like 2 scenes.
Yeah.
Um, and then so he figures it out. He has the confrontation with him, and hilarity ensues.
Hmm. And I'm just gonna say right off the top, we're gonna go full spoilers on this one. I think we resisted the spoilers in our review of the original. At least the big spoiler. I'm sure we didn't reveal.
Yeah, you know what, if you have not seen the original,
Yeah.
I'd say stop listening now and watch that.
You stop this episode right now. Go watch the original.
Yes,
Listen to our review if you'd like.
right.
Then come back, listen to this episode. However, do not watch the Spike Lee remake first before listening to this episode.
Yeah.
We're
The
going to tell you exactly why you shouldn't watch it.
the big reveal in this seemed so obvious, didn't it?
Well, because, like you said, they put it all together in about 10 minutes.
Right.
There was
But
no
like,
build up.
I mean, the mystery just seemed like they seemed stupid for not realizing it in this.
Yeah.
Whereas in the original, it was like, what the fuck do you mean? The original, it was just out of left field almost.
Yeah, and that's the genius of, well, one of the genius things about the original is that it just hits you upside the head with that reveal. And then the ending, which they totally copped out on.
Yeah.
That killed my rating. I was up to a 3 on this until that ending.
The ending in this, I think he was delusional enough to think he was leaving room for a sequel, right? That's what it felt like to me.
What is the sequel?
I don't know, but I mean, why else would he just go back into the prison?
But okay, let's just roll it back first.
I mean, I know, I know
Yeah.
that could be considered a spoiler too, of course,
Right.
but
Well, we're going
the
full
whole
spoilers like that.
movie, the whole movie itself is a spoiler.
Yeah. Let's just roll it back to the beginning because
Okay.
they spent way too much time getting him to the prison.
Good God, the first 45 minutes of this.
It was actually about 15, but yeah.
No. The first 45 minutes of this movie.
Oh, the whole prison sequence, you mean?
Yeah, everything. Yeah. Getting him in
Yeah.
there, and then the prison sequence itself, just ridiculously so. Now we understand the batshit craziness
Mhm.
they put in the prison in the original one. I mean,
Yeah.
this one just had the hallucination of the bellhop, and then a few, he's watching a fake reality TV show, and it was obvious what was going on the whole time.
And when they took the DNA from him, it was so obvious that they were setting him up for a murder. It wasn't obvious in the first one. I don't feel.
Well, it was. I remember, that was the fun thing that you were like, "Oh, I don't know if we should have given away that he was set up when we did the original,"
Mhm.
but I felt that it was
obvious.
that wasn't the big part of the mystery.
Well, yeah.
That was, this guy is a dick, and he is, he wants to fuck over his life from one end to the other.
Hmm.
So yes, he killed his wife in both versions. He
Yeah.
killed his wife and framed him for it.
Hmm. But just, and maybe it's down to Josh Brolin. I don't know that I've ever seen him in anything, but that whole sequence from with in the jail and particularly the beginning before it, worst of it is the fight with his wife over the phone. It's just horribly overacted.
Yeah, I was fine with his acting in this. I mean, I wasn't crazy about it, but I don't think he took him away from it much. Although his, this was kind of a problem with the original too. It's funny when I heard that
Mm.
when I listened to the original that he hardly played young at all,
Oh no, no, yeah, and in
and
both cases, yeah.
they had the
I think
same
they did a,
problem with both versions.
I think they did a better job of aging him in the original.
I don't know. I remember I was just listening to it, and we
Mm.
were like, what the fuck?
Okay. I did think that the 9/11 footage in the prison sequence was a little gratuitous. I mean, I liked seeing the news footage, and they obviously had to reference it, but actually showing the impact
Yeah.
that was a little too far. And when he was released, I missed the bit on the roof. I love the guy on the roof
Oh
in the
yeah, yeah.
original.
I forgot all about that.
So yeah, they cut that out. He's just released in this field, and he's
Yeah, I don't know why they were in love with that imagery of him coming out of a box in a field.
it's a nice shot, but the whole bit on the roof was brilliant.
Yes, yes, it
You could
was.
have that. I mean, in the original, it looked like he was on grass when he was coming out of the box
Yeah.
or the bag or whatever it was in that case.
Well, remember, it kind of looked from the movie poster. It looked like he was coming out of the earth.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. But they could have reproduced that on a roof and still done that bit.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so he sees this woman with an umbrella who he saw the night he was abducted, runs after her, kind of, getting a bit too aggressive because that's the character. He's
Yeah.
really kind of an asshole, more so than the original. And then he's stopped by these jocks, and then he proceeds to beat the shit out of them
Yes.
for no reason.
Right.
I mean, they're not even really coming after him. It's not like they're ganging up on him like in the hallway scene. He just beats them down.
It was just an excuse to add an extra a fight in there, and it wasn't even a very compelling one or necessary.
No. And well, none of the fight scenes were terribly compelling. When we reviewed the original, I mentioned that there was a Bollywood movie called Zinda that ripped off the hallway scene.
Yes.
I was on our site looking at that entry for our original review, and I saw the side by side of the original Oldboy fight and the Zinda fight. The Zinda fight looks a lot like the hallway fight in this one.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I if I hadn't seen the original, I would think it's a good fight scene.
Mm,
It's. I mean,
it looks a little too much like something out of a musical.
it's.
The way it's staged and sort of the way it's blocked, I should say, and
I
and
think
just
that was
how
kind of.
obvious all the moves are.
That was kind of tribute to the original. Where it was kind of like this crazy dance
Yeah,
sort of
but
thing.
they didn't pull it off. It looked like the Sharks and the Jets to me. Like everything was so obviously telegraphed.
Like, I would think that was a good fight scene, though. I wouldn't think it was like. I mean, the original.
Was
That
a
is one of the
genius.
greatest fight scenes
Yes.
that in movie history,
Yes.
hands down.
Mm.
I mean, it's definitely up there. It's got to make a list if you do a list of good fight scenes in a film. That old boy. I mean, it was part of the reason why it got 5 brains.
Yeah.
There were flaws in the original too.
Mm. I think I only took a half a brain off because it didn't quite have the rewatchability.
Oh, it had some shitty CGI in there too.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
But and it had the batshit crazy ending that still I don't know. I just don't know.
See, well, we'll get to that because that's the whole reason I took so much off. Because I kind of was okay with it if I wasn't comparing it to the original. It was a 3. There were some very solid performances. Got to call out Elizabeth Olsen, Samuel L. Jackson, and I'm probably
Yes.
going to get this wrong, Charlotte Copley, who played Adrian. Very strong performances.
Samuel Jackson rescued this from when it was at its ultimate worst. It was 45 minutes in. I was like, this has to start going somewhere. And that's when they brought Samuel L. Jackson in. And it was fucking. It worked from there. Then you have, of course, the hallway fight scene, and then
No, but just going back to Elizabeth Olsen for a second, her character. They engineer somehow 2 meetings with her that quickly. How do they do that?
What the
How does Adrian engineer those 2 meeting up twice?
good question.
And that sort of thing was engineered in the original, but I didn't ask these questions.
That's true. In the original, he had her at the bar at the same bar. That's
Yeah,
all he
okay,
did
that was an easy
in the
setup
original.
then. Yeah,
This, I think, because she had the medical clinic and he was beaten.
right.
I mean, that was one of them. I'm not sure about the second time though.
Well, no, the first time was when he beat down the after he beat down the football team or whatever they were. He
Right, right.
saw a homeless person with the same umbrella and was assaulting him, and she stopped him.
So yeah, you can't engineer that.
Yeah, although I get the impression it was because the whole point was they were setting them up together.
Hmm.
It just seemed too convenient. Also, and this is an issue with the story in general. This goes back to the original, probably the manga. I would assume the manga because I can't imagine the story being this drastically different. She falls for a guy who was literally old enough to be her father. What are the odds? Who isn't like rich and powerful?
Well,
It just seems very unlikely. You know, in the words of Ice-T, shit ain't like that.
it can be though. I didn't have that much of a problem with that.
It didn't bother me in the original. It bothered me this time, probably because he was also such an asshole, and he was pretty much abusive the first time he met her.
Problem I did have with it was that she was actually researching his past.
Yeah.
How did she not put 2 and 2 together?
Hmm. And why was she so quick to believe him and jump in and help?
That's a good question too. I mean, he's a murderer,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as far as she knew.
Hmm. And he's claiming he was locked up for 20 years for no reason, and that's why he didn't do it.
Yeah.
Seems like a likely story.
Now, I don't know. I don't think I really cared for
Really? Okay.
Copley's Paul Williams impression or whatever he was doing.
Paul Williams. I didn't get a Paul Williams impression from it, but
Just that soft voice.
okay, okay.
I would have rather seen Andy Dick in that role.
Oh god. I don't know. I kind of liked it. I think maybe if James Brolin, I almost called him James Brolin.
That's actually James Earl Jones.
Yeah. Oh no, his father James Brolin, who I'm
Uh,
a bit more familiar with, oddly enough, because he did a lot of stuff in the late '80s.
yeah.
But Josh Brolin was just so ham-fisted in this that I think that Charlotte Copley's performance was a little more relaxed, made it seem better by comparison. I don't know. I think he just Brolin just irritated me so much that anything was good in comparison.
And yeah, I guess that's the point in this. They're nice, contrasts to each other.
Hmm.
It's like the Serpent and the Rainbow movie where, a couple of weeks back where, the protagonist, the antagonist are both so wooden.
Yeah, 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 possibly. Yeah, he was kind of just a standard British fop in hindsight. Now, did he show up in the middle of the original? Did the kidnapper show up and like taunt him? Because it
Uh,
happened in this one, and it seemed really unnecessary.
which part did he
When he
taunt
shows
him?
up in the bar to taunt him and to
I think
basically lay down the challenge.
I think he called him. I don't know if he
Yes,
showed up.
he did. There was some context. He had to lay down the challenge, but showing up just seemed horribly unnecessary.
Yeah. And like you said, the mystery was just, it
Mhm.
was all too easy to solve who he
Yeah.
was. It was just, oh, okay. We snuck in some old lady's house. We got an old yearbook. We saw his picture.
Mhm.
We Googled him. That's him.
And why did they need to steal the yearbook? Wouldn't that be online? If they're making a big deal about how it's 2013 when the movie was released, and the internet's a thing now, and he doesn't know about it, and that's kind of a running gag that he doesn't know about the internet. So why not make a bigger deal of it and establish that that would be online now?
Because it was ridiculously stretched out as it was. I mean, he was purposely making that mystery
Yeah.
longer to solve than it actually
Mhm.
was. I mean, in reality, that's a mystery that is solved in 30 seconds.
Yes, yes. Especially when you see him in the bar, you should recognize him.
Yes.
Or at least have some clue that, I went to this prep school in America and there was this British guy. That should have rung a bell.
And I think, yeah, that was the thing. Neither classmate recognized him,
Hmm.
but then they remembered the sister after a while.
Right. Well, because there was that whole controversy with her. Now, I will say there were some positives before I go back to the Bash Fest. Loved the squid reference when he walks
Oh
into the
yes,
restaurant and stares at the squid on the side of the tank.
yes.
The original squid scene far better, but I did love the reference. And I liked the twist with the reveal. Instead of it being a relationship between the brother and the sister, it involved the father, and both of them. It was far more twisted. I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
Also, the way he tortured the jailer was very inventive with the cuts on the neck.
yes.
I enjoyed that when the saw loved that.
And I love Samuel L. Jackson cursing about while he's being tortured.
Mhm. Now, the sex scene was incredibly crowbarred, and that relationship came out of nowhere. Like, okay, we have to get them together. We've only got like a half hour left in the movie. Just give them this
Well,
random excuse to have sex.
he, you could tell they were hinting at it, and then he was like, "You've got to go," kind of thing.
There
But
was no hinting at it. There was no sexual tension in that relationship.
there was a scene before where she gets captured,
Mm.
which of
When
course,
she's almost raped.
yeah, where she's almost raped, where he sends her off.
Mm.
Like there's something there in that scene. But yeah, I'll agree. Before that, there was nothing.
No. And suddenly they're shagging because they need to for plot.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I just side note, I have to say I do like that the most attractive of the Olsen sisters is the one who's willing to do nude scenes. And now on to the ending. I had to leave a review on Netflix to warn people off of this one because of the ending.
Well, yeah.
In the original ending, as well as you should know because you should have watched it before you listened to this,
Yes.
after finding out that he had slept with his daughter, he cuts off his tongue so that he can never tell her and he can continue the relationship. In this one, he has the realistic freak out anxiety attack, which I liked. The only part of Brolin's performance I liked was his reaction to that reveal. Just that sort of dull, moaning
Right.
scream
Right.
that he did. I did like that. I thought that was very realistic. But then he just calls her and tells her he can never see her again and drives off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Such a letdown. It's just they just pulled the punch too far, too much.
Yeah. It's very ambivalent.
Hmm.
That's the word that kept coming through my mind about how this was handled.
Yeah.
Which is very, oh, here's some violence. And then I did something terrible, but I'm gonna give you a cute little gift too anyway. And just don't think about me. And then I'm gonna make nice with the people that kept me captive. And it was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And he doesn't drive off into the sunset. He goes back into jail.
Which kind of makes sense because you're in the same one place for 20 years.
Yeah, it's comfortable, and I guess
It's the
he
thing
wants to
about
punish himself.
prisoners.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
They generally find themselves back in prison,
Mhm.
and of course, it's circumstance in some cases, but in other cases, it's just comfort. It's
Yeah,
cool. What you know.
Both becomes habit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I should point out that Spike Lee's original version was 140 minutes long,
Oh my God.
but the producers heavily re-edited the film to 105 minutes.
Oh, thank God.
Re-edits by producers also included the one-shot hammer scene. I'm guessing that's the hallway fight.
Yeah.
Lee and Brolin were both unhappy with it. Lee removed his trademark, a Spike Lee joint.
Is that why it wasn't a Spike Lee joint? I'd wondered about that.
Yeah, it's a Spike Lee film instead.
Yeah.
Brolin also said in an interview with the Los Angeles Times that he prefers Lee's version of the film, though it's not clear if this cut will be released.
Wait a minute. The Lee version was 100
40 minutes. So 2 hours and 20 minutes. This was an hour
Yeah.
45. So
Yeah.
about 40 minutes longer. Well, yeah. They cut it down to 105. So yeah, 35 minutes longer. My issues with it have nothing to do with the cut, though. They have to do with things that would have been in Lee's version, like the ending and Brolin's performance and the beginning.
I mean,
More time
the-
would not have made that beginning any better.
Right. Would he have made that even longer, the prison stay? I mean, what? What else could they have added to it?
I don't know. Maybe the only thing that maybe could have made it better in the longer cut is the relationship between the two of them. Maybe there was more built up, more tension. Maybe, the final sex scene made sense. Because in the original, they had a sexual relationship much earlier and then more frequently,
Yeah,
but it made sense.
it did.
In this, it just was so completely out of nowhere. Now, it could have possibly been worse. In November of 2008, DreamWorks and Universal were securing rights to the remake, which Will Smith had expressed interest in starring,
Oh my God.
with Spielberg as a director.
What?
Could you imagine Will Smith and Spielberg doing this?
Oh, that would have been horrible.
Yeah.
They would have gotten the other Olsen.
Incidentally, speaking of Elizabeth Olsen, she didn't know the ending of the film until she watched it for the first time at the New York premiere.
Really?
She said, "I've never been more shocked and surprised by an ending since maybe like The Sixth Sense. No one
Oh,
spoiled it for me, no one hinted at it for me, and I got to experience it with just a blank canvas."
that is really funny.
Too bad it wasn't the original.
Yeah, I know. But one thing's for certain, though. We won't have to worry about another version of this.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
sequel.
Well, on to sequels and remakes?
Yeah.
All I have to say is no, never again.
The budget for this was $30 million.
Hmm.
I'm looking at numbers here, and if it got 10 million, they'd be very lucky
Hmm.
internationally.
Yeah.
It was that much of a flop.
I don't even remember it being in theaters. Like, we talked about it when we reviewed the original.
I do. We did the original in the summertime, and then this came out in like the winter.
Okay. I vaguely
Later.
remember it. I remember it. I remember talking about it in the news and then seeing it like advertised on, home video.
And then yeah, that was it. It was just in and out in
Hmm.
a couple weeks. Gone before the end of December.
Yeah. At this point, I'd really be interested in reading the manga just to see if it's that much better. Because there are people who complain about the original movie because it pales in comparison to the manga.
Huh.
But you always get that with any adaptation.
Yeah.
There's
Because it's
always.
never going to be as good as it is in your head.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, this isn't just a novel, it's a manga, so there are pictures.
That's true.
So I'm curious what the story is there and how they changed it. Because I know the story was changed for the first movie. So I'm going to have to check that out. On the brains?
On the brains.
Like I said, this was a 3 because I was trying not to compare it to the original. Because, that's going to fail no matter what.
Yeah.
On its own, up until that ending, it was a 3. Some very solid performances, some nice, clever twists and modifications to the original and references. And I was overall enjoying it, as long as I didn't think about the original. And
Yeah.
then it got to the ending. He gets the reveal, and he screams, and he's there, and I'm waiting for him to cut his tongue out. And he just calls her and says, "I can't see you again." And I think I was almost as upset as I was at the ending of Lost. It was almost that disappointing. Except Lost was a longer build-up, but still, I think it was close to that. So I'm going 1.
Wow. All right.
Because
Yeah,
I got to give it something for the good performances and the nice twists.
I was at a 3 pretty much up until that ending too. I think it was alright, I mean, not as good as the original, of course. The
Of course.
original was a 5,
Mhm.
but I don't think it was blasphemous either. And Lee seems quite uncomfortable with violence, doesn't he? Like, I mean, he portrayed it. He was very, very detached.
And he's just not good at it.
Yeah. So I'm going 2.5, right down the middle.
All right, and what have we learned?
We need to get our hands on the Bollywood version.
Oh yeah, Zinda. I would like to see that too.
We should review that.
Yeah. And I learned that after this, Spike Lee needs to be locked up for 20 years.
He'd still be making the same films, though.
True. He's done some good stuff, I swear.
Yeah, he
Summer of
has.
Sam, Do the Right Thing. He's good. He
Yeah.
just failed with
He has
this.
his moments.
Yeah, I mean, then again,
They can't all be zingers. But
Yeah,
who,
no.
who told him to do this?
Yeah.
What bug crawled up his ass. Oh, old boy, I'll make a nice sanitized American version of
That's the thing
that.
is, I think he saw the original. He might be a big fan of the original,
Of
and he's
course.
gonna say, I want to remake that, which I understand. But know what you're good at and know what you're not good at, and then
You
this is
know,
not what you're good at.
I have some paints upstairs. I really like this painting I saw online called the Mona Lisa.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go and make that.
yeah.
Do you think it's gonna be nearly as good as it? No, it's
Exactly.
gonna look like shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone's going to compare it to the original. And
Mhm.
so when you see these IMDb message boards are like, stop comparing it to the original. I'm sorry, it exists. It's out there. We did our best to review this without comparing it to the original,
Mm.
but it pales in comparison.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why we tried not to compare it because we knew it wasn't
Right,
going to be as good as the original because the original is a fucking masterpiece.
right. The fight scene, of course, alone. Just
Mhm.
comparing the two.
Well, the fight scene and just the imagery of the squid and the umbrella,
Yeah.
and it's just shot beautifully. And
This lacked that imagery, you
it
know?
lacked the visual style, it lacked the balls, it lacked the choreography in the fight scenes. It lacked the performance of the lead because I'm never going to remember his name, but the lead in the original gave a great performance.
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
If anything, the female lead was a little iffy. In this case, it was
Yeah.
the other way around. Elizabeth Olsen was great, and Brolin was almost unwatchable. I mean, I after watching this, I actually emailed Pat. Those of you who've been with us since TAS know who Pat is.
Yes.
I actually had to warn him off of this because he's the one who turned me on to the original.
Well, he should know already, though. I mean, come on.
I don't know if he's seen it. If he hasn't, I had to warn him off.
Anyone that's seen the original and like the original is not going to want to.
True, true. Just in case you want to
If
see
it
it out of
wasn't for this
curiosity.
show, I would not have watched this.
I might have checked it out of curiosity, but I wouldn't have been in a rush. All right, so until next time, we'll be reviewing, and I have it in my notes differently than we've been pronouncing it. Rented Aluminium, and it is a
That's,
British film or an Australian film, so I'm guessing
I
it
was gonna
is
say that's the British pronunciation
probably
of
is actually
aluminum.
aluminium, English rented, or in American rented aluminum. Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoyed the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all of the listeners we have so far, but more would be better. You'll also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review. I think we're good up through next month.
Yeah, I think we've got quite a bit to get through
We're
for
still
the end of the
debating
year.
on what we're going to do in December, but I think we're good till then. The request form, if you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form. We'll get to it. And, of course, the recommendations list. I was optimistic going into this one. You were right all along.
Actually, it was a little bit better than I thought it was going to be.
And it was far worse than I expected. Actually, it was a little worse than I was expecting until that ending.
Yeah, you know what? If he had pulled the ending off, he would have had something pretty good here, almost recommendable. But
It would have been a solid 3 for me if he had stuck with the original ending.
yeah,
You can also email us zombietakeout@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1 or for the alphanumerically challenged.
you can get captured by Paul Williams for 20 years.
Of course, always remember that you'll always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee, and until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
There you are.
Sorry, boss.
Alright, so slight change in plans. We just set out to look for Rancid Aluminium. I thought it
Aluminum.
was on Netflix, or at least YouTube. We could not find hide nor hair of it, and we still haven't received our copies of Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies. We're probably never getting them.
No, we're never gonna.
Yeah, if it's not by the end of this month, we're not getting them.
Yeah.
So that failed. So we're gonna skip straight to Doctor Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Can't believe I actually remember that full title after all these years. For next week, it'll be a very nice palate cleanser after this and a few things we've done recently.
Yeah.
Or for the alphanumerically challenged. Oh, come
It,
on. This one, you're not going to go for an alphanumerical challenge bit?